Thank you very much. We'll wait to see if anyone else is coming in for the public session. Any further declaration of interest, members, that need to declare for today? No. Okay, agenda item 1 is apologies. I have 2 is Nicola Brogan and Tom Buchanan. No others at this present? No. Okay, at this stage I'd just like to welcome a new member to the clerk team, Sarah Priest, is clerk assistant here. Sarah, you're very welcome, and I hope you have an enjoyable time at this committee. And thanks to Damien Brown. I believe Damien's moving on. Damien has been with us for quite a number of weeks and has been extremely helpful. So thank you, Damien. Best wishes wherever you go to. So I'm going to run through the agenda item 2. Members, just stop me if there's anything you want to discuss a wee bit further in Chair's business. Firstly, I should say I have to leave early today for a family funeral, so I'll be leaving and the Vice Chair will be taking over after. There is a Parliamentary Excellence Programme. John Sturrock, KC, is delivering effective questioning techniques in committee. This is for Thursday the 10th of October, or it was for Thursday the 10th of October, but Mr Sturrock is now unavailable at date, and it will be at our meeting on the 3rd of October. Is that right, Clerk? Yes. Okay. There's a letter in your pack from Mr David Burley of Erin Anglers Angling Club. He had emailed me some time ago. I had actually sent it on to the department for a response, but if you're content that we send it on from the committee as well, because he had asked for it to go to committee. Content? Okay.
Would it be possible, Chair, on that one, and if it's the view of the committee, to highlight that the contribution in previous years was minimal and that there was no direct cost in terms of capital resource costs, but there was some impactful cost in terms of overtime. But maybe mention that it's the view of the committee that should be considered most seriously before ruling out any involvement in events that bring tourism to the area or any other area, and also encourage the government narrative around getting outdoors and active and promote our local economy.
And I'm happy to copy the clerk in with the correspondence I sent to the Minister and his response as well, if that, because it did highlight those issues, John. Okay, members, we've highlighted Northern Ireland Ploughing Championships, which is taking place at Guildford, Lurgan, on Friday the 27th and Saturday the 28th of September. I'm just asking if we want to go as a committee. I don't particularly think we would get members to attend on maybe those 2 days for the full days, but if members would want to go on their own, maybe let the clerk know so that we can inform the Ploughing Society. I would hope to go personally on the Friday, but unless members feel that we should go as a committee, but just I'm conscious we may not end up with too many, that's all. Happy to leave it to individuals?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, members, in August the committee team sent out a survey link for the Older People's Parliament, which is taking place on the 12th of October. The survey closed on the 4th of September, and the results will shape the event, which is being organised by the Engagement Office. Members, there is an invitation there to myself to the Northern Ireland Food and Drink 28th Annual Dinner being held in the Hilton Hotel on the 3rd of October. I can't actually attend that, and I've spoke to the Vice Chair and he doesn't think he can attend either. If there's any member would like to attend, could I ask that you speak to the clerk, and it'll be on a first come first served basis. Okay. Members, an invitation in the pack from Stephen Agnew of Renewable NI to attend an offshore wind industry event, the Clean Revolution, which is being hosted by Danny Donnelly MLA on Wednesday 25th of September in the Long Gallery from 12 to 3. It's okay if the clerk adds that to your diaries. Okay. Members, I refer you to the table papers at pages 3 to 16 regarding the blue tongue virus. This is an issue that has got a bit more media attention and of recent times. So DAERA are issuing a warning to farmers across Northern Ireland about the devastating impact that blue tongue virus could have on the local agri-food sector, and urged all farmers to exercise vigilance and to source animals responsibly. The warning followed recent outbreaks in Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, and now Luxembourg and France. So anyway, it's an issue that's been on the agenda for a wee while, but clearly it's this has got more significance at the minute. Okay, agenda item 3 is the draft minutes. Sorry. Oh, sorry, yes, on the blue tongue, the department want to brief us on the 26th of September, if you're all content. Okay.
Chair, just in relation to that, obviously there's a warning there coming from the department about people being responsible about where they get their animals from. Are they aware of people acquiring animals irresponsibly?
We can ask that. Yeah. In other words, what you're saying, bringing animals in illegally?
Perhaps.
Okay. We'll certainly ask if they're aware of that. Okay. Good point. Okay, agenda item 3 is draft minutes. Refer you to the draft minutes dated 8th of July 24, pages 12 to 21. Are you content with these minutes as drafted?
Yep.
Great, okay. Members, there are a number of matters arising here that I'm going to run through as quickly as possible. Pages 24 to 26 of your pack is information regarding the Green Investment Bank involved in the funding of the proposed SBRI Phase 2 use of livestock slurries. I know there's been a meeting with that investment bank, but any comment on that raised by this committee here? No?
There may be. On that, was a meeting to take place, or did take place, I presume, on the 10th of July to obtain more information around the issue. It might be helpful just if we got a more contemporary update on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, particularly from that meeting, Patsy?
Please.
Okay, all content?
Yep.
Okay, next matter arising, pages 27 to 29 of your pack. In reply to our letter regarding the proposed solution from Hennessy Ward for Lough Neagh, officials are to contact Hennessy Ward following the launch of the SBRI. Phase 1 of that initiative was launched by DAERA on the 5th of August, and 5 applicants will be selected. Happy enough? Okay, next matter arising, pages 30 to 33 of the pack, is in reply to our letter of the 2nd of July requesting its view on the Commissioner for Older People Northern Ireland report. DAERA states that it welcomes the report and the inclusion of public services and rural living as a priority. Any comment on that? We did include rural affairs and rural needs actions in our priorities earlier in the year during our planning meeting. So we have potential of a briefing from RAISE is currently scheduled for later this month, so you can tend to have that briefing. Thank you. Pages 34 to 35 your pack reply to our letter that dated 28th of June. Submissions from the department made to the UK-wide consultation regarding the UK policy framework on managing radioactive substances and nuclear decommissioning. Members, any comment on that, or are you happy to note? Don't know this. Okay. Next item is pages 36 to 44 of your pack. This is in reply to our letter of the 3rd of July, including the clerk's memo summarising the issues of concern of representatives of the fishing industry that we heard at Kilkeel Harbour on 27th of June. Department states it's fully aware of the issues, referred to the Migration Advisory Committee, which published its review on seasonal workers on the 16th of July. That report is actually in our packet, page 56. Any further comment? No, Michelle, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Obviously, this letter was dated the 11th of July, so there's a couple of months now has passed, and I note that the Minister had requested a meeting with the Home Office. Obviously, the access to foreign crews for the fishing industry and access to seasonal workers for mushroom growers, etc., as the committee has heard, is a problem. And I was just wondering whether that date had been confirmed or whether a meeting had taken place in the interim, because the letter is a couple of months old.
Okay, we need to check that then. Okay, we'll check that, Michelle, for next week. Okay. Next matter arising is pages 45 to 49 of your pack. It's regarding the Northern Ireland Mushroom Growers Association and its request to extend the farm sustainability payment to mushroom farms. We did hear from the mushroom growers. I also had a meeting with them this week. I don't know whether any other parties or members had. I suggest that once the pilot horticultural programme and investment measures are developed, that we request a further briefing from the department officials on that issue. And there is also an issue there, as Michelle has highlighted, around the visas and the seasonal workers, whereby the mushroom growers are slightly different. They say it's not entirely seasonal workers for them that they want. They want a visa that will last for 2 years. So I don't know, members, whether this, we write to the department again or include that in the fishing one, maybe around that. Is that okay? Yeah. And okay. Next matter arising is pages 56 to 199 of your pack, which is the Migration Advisory Committee report and recommendations to the Home Office, or Chapter 6. Anybody any comment on that, members? Obviously it is an issue for the fishermen again, or the fishing industry and the mushroom growers.
Sure, it might be helpful maybe to, obviously I'm assuming that those organisations will have read this or certainly had access to it, but even to write to them to get their view of what has been published and just have a written briefing from them. Yeah.
Well, I certainly know the mushroom growers are happy to do that, because I met them the other day, so they'll do that. Yeah. And I'm sure the fishermen will, or the fishing industry will as well. Okay. Okay, members, at pages 50 to 55 your pack, in reply to our letter dated 3rd of July regarding the potential ending of the Fruit and Vegetable Aid Scheme 2025, the Minister has stated that under relevant assimilated law, the Fruit and Vegetable Aid Scheme will not automatically come to an end in Northern Ireland after December 2025, that it is a devolved scheme and Northern Ireland is free to consider what support best suits the local horticultural sector. So the Minister has made no decisions yet on that. In parallel, as we have already heard prior to recess, he is seeking primary powers to allow DAERA to make that aid scheme support discretionary and allow DAERA to modify the legacy scheme. The Minister gives assurances that he and his officials will continue to engage directly with stakeholders as they progress the aid review. Anything more we need to do on that, members? No. Okay. Okay, members, the next item arising that I have is pages 200 to 203 of your pack, and that is regarding Moboy remediation cost estimates. This correspondence from Daniel McAteer. Mr McAteer shares the committee's concerns regarding the department's lack of providing estimated costs for the remediation options and the challenges, therefore for others to assess any options under consideration. His correspondence includes the economic scoring section from the department's report. Mr McAteer is asking the committee to press for answers from the department on the simple questions raised in terms of figures used when assessing the weighting and suitability of the various options being appraised. Did note last week there was some media reports about the prosecutions there. So I'm just not sure how much further information we will get at this stage until that's concluded, or do you want to write in out to the department to press for an update on those issues that Mr McAteer has asked for in the meantime, so that at least it's on the record if the legal case is cleared up. Okay, members, pages 204 to 206 of your pack is a reply regarding the Northern Ireland Fish Producers Organisation proposal to treat the blue-green algae in Lough Neagh. Intent to note, pages 207 to 208 of your pack regarding response from the Minister regarding the plans Minister had for engaging with the new UK Government and the Windsor Framework Implementation Regulations. Minister confirms that he has met with DEFRA's Secretary of State and will be meeting with the Northern Ireland Secretary of State at the earliest opportunity. We still haven't got clarity around what exactly is under the DERA control and what still sits with Westminster though. And I know the officials and the Minister himself, to be fair, when I was last with us, said that they weren't even sure. So I don't know whether that's still the case or not.
We ever written to DEFRA in relation to that for clarity at all? Or was it just DERA?
I think we did.
We requested the oral briefing, I think, from DERA at the time.
Yeah. I have a notion though it's maybe the NIO, is it? As opposed to DEFRA that we should maybe write. But we did. We did, that's
Chair,
right.
we did write to the NIO, but I didn't get any response, and I left it at the time just to see if you wanted to take.
But there was a DERA official
Yeah.
was prepared to come up and brief us, but we didn't hear anything back from the NIO, did we?
No.
John?
Yeah, quickly, Chair. I seem to recall a list of these being sent to members. The dates of 15th, 16th of May are coming to mind. It might be worth checking if it's correspondence either.
John, no, that correspondence said that some of these issues were coming back to DERA.
Yes.
The problem is for me that I see it doesn't specifically say which ones, and the Ministry and Department officials accepted that. So while it might be a part of one piece of the legislation, it's not all of it, is what they were saying. And I think they're as much of a loss as we are, but I think we should ask again, and again, if we write to the NIO, maybe if you're happy enough to see if we can get some more detail. It's just a lack of detail that's frustrating the agricultural sector. Okay, members, pages 209 to 212 of your pack is a response to our letter of the 9th of July regarding the Northern Ireland Audit Office report, public body's response to misrepresented soil analysis. Department assures the committee that NIEA have put in place control measures and communicated with all relevant stakeholders regarding the misrepresented soil analysis. Department further states that as the report may be considered by the Assembly's Public Accounts Committee, it is accepted practice that departments do not comment on the report findings and recommendations until PAC has been able to consider the report and determine the next steps it wishes to take. Yes, Patsy?
Sure, just that second paragraph there, promptly put in place a suite of control measures and communicated with all the relevant stakeholders. I've no clue what that means. I would like to hear maybe what the control measures are and what was communicated and to which stakeholders and what the import of that is. Really, that doesn't tell me anything.
Yeah. Okay, well, look,
Aye. So
We-
if we could get a wee bit more
I
expansion
think
on
what
that,
you're
Chair.
asking for, Patsy, is a wee bit more detail, and be more specific as to who
Please,
was communicated with. Is that fair?
Thank you.
Okay, all agreed? Okay, next matter arising is pages 213 to 216 of your pack, in reply to our letter of the 10th of June regarding the ban on sale and supply of single-use vapes in Northern Ireland. This will require subordinate legislation in accordance with Article 32.3 of the Waste and Contamination Law Northern Ireland Order 1997 to implement a ban in Northern Ireland. The Department now intends to publish a notice in the Belfast Gazette indicating the effect of the regulations and must consider any representations that are made in accordance with the notice. Any comment? No. Okay, next item arising is pages 217 to 219 of your pack. It's in response to a letter dated 10th of June regarding the movement of pet birds into a member state from a territory of a third country. Pet birds, excluding poultry and pigeons, moving from a third country into the European Union or Northern Ireland must be accompanied by an export health certificate. Pet birds must enter the EU or Northern Ireland via a traveller's point of entry, and they must be presented to officials at the time of entry for documentary and ID checks. Following the coming into force of the Windsor Framework Implementation Regulations 2024, this matter is under the direction and control of DEFRA. So again, that's one of the ones that
Your clarification.
locally we don't have any. That's one they do know who's in control of it. Any further comment? No. Okay, next matter arising is pages 220 to 225 of your pack. In reply to our letter of the 1st of July regarding the Northern Ireland Environment Agency planning delays for renewable developments. On average, NIEA and Marine and Fisheries Division received 4,000 new statutory planning consultations annually. Response rates for 23-24 show an enhanced performance rate of 72% of consultations responded to within statutory timeframes. Minister states he is addressing the anticipated increase in renewable planning applications and associated challenging time periods involved within the Green Growth Strategy and the requirements of the Climate Change Act. He has allocated further resource to NIEA in 2024-25. I think the biggest issue there are those that require more significant assessments, and in particular the likes of renewable energy and even those in the intensive agri sector. Well, that's not renewable developments, it still is a significant issue and there's long delays from NIEA, but maybe by the Minister putting additional staff in, that might help to alleviate it. Any comment on that? No. Okay, members, that ends my matter horizon unless anybody else has anything to raise. No. Okay, members, we'll go on to agenda item 5, which is the oral briefing from the Department Sheep Task Force Support for Sheep Sector in Northern Ireland. I refer you to pages 226 to 294 of your pack. Presentation being given today by the Northern Ireland Sheep Industry Task Force is at pages 227 to 236 in your pack. A letter on the Northern Ireland Sheep Sector Scheme that we received in May, including the reports, a vision for the development of the Northern Ireland sheep industry, and a vision for stimulus packages to support the development of the Northern Ireland sheep industry, and a report by the National Sheep Association, the UK Sheep Farming and Sustainability Agenda. So, if the members, those present, could take the seats at the bottom of the table, and I welcome Kelly Rouse from the Ulster Farmers Union, Beef and Lamb and Hill Farming Policy Officer, Glenn Cuddy, Ulster Farmers Union Deputy President, Campbell Tweed, Sheep Farmer and National Sheep Association Rep, and Sean Fitzpatrick of the Northern Ireland Agricultural Producers Association. You're all very welcome, folks. Good to have you here. So I'll you'll have 10 minutes for your presentation, and then hopefully you will take some questions from the committee members. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, Deputy Chair and committee members, thank you for taking the time to facilitate this meeting today. We hope you have had time to read over our reports and presentation in advance. To start off with a bit of background on the sheep industry, we have approximately 1 million breeding ewes in Northern Ireland and approximately 2 million sheep. We have in total 25,000 farms in Northern Ireland with about 10,000 sheep farmers and about 4,000 sheep-only farmers. The value of output of the sheep industry in 2023 was 109 million. Despite this, for sheep-only farmers, they will lose up to 18% of their basic payment scheme with no way of making this back up. The sheep industry is deeply concerned on the impact this will have. Many sheep farmers farm SDA land which is not suitable to cattle, and therefore they cannot avail of the beef carbon reduction scheme or the suckler cow scheme. They also have not been receiving the ANC payment from 2017. Despite this, the sheep industry's significant contribution to Northern Ireland's economy, there was no inclusion of a Pacific sheep support in DAERA's future agricultural policy. As a result, the Northern Ireland Sheep Industry Task Force was established in autumn 2022. It is made up of the Ulster Farmers Union, Ulster Wool, the National Sheep Association, the Northern Ireland Agricultural Producers Association, the Livestock Meat Commission and the Northern Ireland Meat Export Association. The task force produced a robust evidence-based report and stimulus outlining the industry's vision for the sheep sector. The report and stimulus were presented to DAERA in February 2023. However, unfortunately at this time there was no executive in place and DAERA's response was any decision would have to await on the return of ministers, priorities and budget allowance. What is the Sheep Task Force vision? A resilient, vibrant and sustainable industry that uses leading edge technologies to deliver safe, high quality meat and wool through increased productivity while adding value by increasing carbon sequestration, reducing greenhouse gas intensity and enhancing landscape biodiversity, while maintaining the mosaic landscape of our hills and uplands and securing social cohesion. However, we can only do this with DAERA policy support. The benefits and challenges of sheep farming in Northern Ireland. To start off with the benefits, it sustains rural economies. In the NI economy, turning £1 of primary agricultural output to 1.80 of output. One job in the agricultural generates a further 1.5 jobs in the wider economy. In total, there's over 5,000 jobs in the red meat, food and processing sector. It creates an income generation, it creates food production. In Northern Ireland, we feed over 10 million people. It requires a low capital, and for young farmers starting in, it is a low investment startup. It delivers environment land management through increasing biodiversity, increasing carbon sequestration, and sheep are naturally biologically efficient. It delivers wider social economy in terms of the export of sheep meat, live animals and wool, and it contributes to the wider rural economy through scanning services, shearing, veterinary services, your accountants, solicitor, banks. It creates cultural heritage and tourism, and our sperrins, moorns and glens wouldn't be the way they are today without sheep. And it also supports rural infrastructure. However, we face many challenges. We have fluctuating weather patterns, climate change, land availability and quality. Unfortunately, there's no more land being made, and unfortunately sheep farmers farm the majority of the SDA land in Northern Ireland. We suffer from low profitability businesses, we work in volatile markets, we have age demographics where the average age of a farmer today is 60, the lack of capital investment measures, the last round of the Farm Business Improvement Scheme did not work for sheep farmers. We suffer from the lack of infrastructure planning, the major issues with ammonia, diseases, scab, envy, the big one at the minute, blue tongue fears. We have a lack of labour. There's issues with trades, imports, exports, the recent Australia and New Zealand trade deals that were done, and the lack of sheep research in Northern Ireland compared to GB and ROI. We also suffer from a lack of genetics and a poor uptake from it. Over in GB, they have a very successful system called Signet, and ROI have Sheep Ireland. In total, in the Signet system here in Northern Ireland, we only have 23 flocks involved in that, and about a handful involved in Sheep Ireland, which is really disappointing. Below is a summary of the key asks of the Sheep Task Force report. So a quick kind of summary of what we kind of put into the report. So we want to increase the productivity of our sheep flocks through driving animal health and welfare, genetics through performance recorded sheep, infrastructure through our capital investment measures, knowledge transfer through BDG and training, and environment through reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, carbon sequestration, biodiversity, soil and water quality. So over to the right is just a few examples of some proposed actions for farmers to do that we had said in the reports. So this could be taking part in a BDG group, recording your individual lambing dates of flocks through EID onto NIFAS, fecal egg counting, abortion, foot rot vaccines, pregnancy, OPA scanning, scab treatment, performance recorded sheep, so purchasing performance recorded rams, and capital grants for the likes of handling pens, weigh crates, EID readers and mobile dippers. So turning over then some examples of other sheep schemes in other jurisdictions, starting off with England's DEFRA's Animal Health and Welfare Review. So over there they pay £436 for initial farm vet visit. This is then followed up with another payment of £639 per farm, so farmers get advice on the results of the test and receive guidance about treating and controlling the diseases and improving biosecurity. They are also offered a capital grant to support key health and welfare priorities, so the farmer alongside the vet work out the most appropriate investments for their farms and animals. It could be small grants for equipment, technology, or larger grants for housing and building upgrades. So moving then on to the ROI Sheep Improvement Scheme and National Sheep Welfare Scheme. They pay in total €20 per ewe starting this year. So there's kind of two schemes. So the first scheme has some target welfare areas. So this includes lameness control, mineral supplementation of ewes post-mating, meal feeding lambs post-weaning, parasite control, so fecal egg counting, scanning of ewes, fly strike control, and mineral supplementation of lambs pre-weaning, and then genotype ram action. So farmers have to pick two options off that list, as well as purchasing a performance recorded ram to qualify for the scheme. And then the addition to the scheme this year is, out of these two categories, farmers have to pick one from each, so they have to either do shearing or body condition scoring of ewes, and then the second action is either clostridial vaccination or plunge dipping of the ewes. So the Sheep Task Force have submitted this report last year. We obviously sat for a time without an executive. We were thankful last week that we had a very positive meeting with Deirdre for the first time, with Rosemary and Avine and George, to discuss what is the future. So our key ask from Minister Muir would be that Deirdre would establish a Northern Ireland sheep development programme. So our first ask would be a sheep genetic improvement scheme. As I've discussed previously, GB has Signet, ROI has Sheep Ireland, and coming from 2026 will have a sustainable ruminant genetics programme for cattle in Northern Ireland. So we would like to have the same for sheep, so that we can develop and sheep's genetics will not be left behind in Northern Ireland, particularly at a time where we are struggling with importing genetics with our current issues with blue tongue. Secondly, we would ask for a sheep health and welfare scheme similar to what DEFRA is offering. 3, we would like a sustainable land management and biodiversity scheme tailored to the sheep sector in farming with nature. 4, a bespoke sheep capital investment measures. As mentioned previously in the last Farm Business Improvement Scheme, sheep farmers struggle to uptake the scheme due to low scoring items for sheep farmers. And lastly, we would like a research programme for sheep. We recently went on a sheep study tour with AgResearch and got to visit UCD's farm and Chagas' sheep research farm, and we would like something similar here in Northern Ireland so that we can move on our research here. So thank you for listening. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Kelly. Very interesting. I noticed there sheep farmers will lose up to 18% of the basic payment scheme. How is that calculated?
Under WTO rules, a headage payment's only allowed to be paid up to 18%. So the suckler cow scheme and beef scheme will be taken out of the 18%, as well as a small amount for a protein scheme. But obviously, with budget allowance, it's harder to say. You would roughly calculate about a 50 million budget at the minute for it,
Yeah.
depending on.
Because I imagine it's
outcome.
quite difficult to calculate that at present
Yeah.
in any sort of accuracy.
But the department has assured us that they will, no matter what the budget comes back, that that will be the cut that they can take.
Okay. And the 109 million, I think I read somewhere, I heard you say that the industry's worth 109 million, is that right,
Yeah.
to the economy?
hmm
And how much would the sheep industry bring in basic payment scheme at the moment? I'm trying to work out what the level is above the basic payment scheme that there is to the economy.
As in, how much of the basic payment scheme goes to sheep?
Well, if the basic payment scheme is worth 20 million to the sheep industry at present, then there's a net improvement of 89 million. So I'm trying to work out the difference between.
In the current situation, the profit in the sector would be roughly equal to the basic payment that farmers are getting. So the risk is that the reduction in the premium is going to put people into a loss-making situation.
Okay.
And that's been the situation for quite a while.
Okay. Okay, thanks. And tell me give me a wee bit more information about the genetic programme that you would plan, because clearly sheep's a bit more difficult to manage than the likes of your pigs in a genetic programme or your dairy cows or that. So I'm just wondering about sheep, because if you have sheep running, you keep a lot of sheep in an area, it can be difficult to improve genetics.
Well, I'll speak as a participant in both with Sheep Ireland and Signet. The good thing about sheep is you can make progress pretty quickly. You don't have to, the generation renewals a lot quicker than it is with cattle. But one of the issues is getting over the culture. It has taken almost 15 years for Sheep Ireland really to get up on its feet and going and have general industry acceptance. The first barrier to progress is that the sheep sector is very traditional and people are slow to change from traditions. And the fact is that with genetic improvement you can make rapid progress, but only if it's taken up. And takes good advice and a bit of research backing to get that kind of a take-up. We were doing it initially to improve our own flock, and basically all recording issues can be got over, but again it's into the culture change and being able to implement it. And without support, that sort of change isn't going to happen.
I'm assuming you're suggesting that a wee bit of financial support might help people to move from that culture.
Yeah, well, traditionally sheep was bought on, you bought sheep on their looks rather than their figures, and any other industry in Northern Ireland have moved away from that and works on figures, whereas sheep is still stuck there. A lot of breeders that you go to buy and go to ram sales and whatever, there's no figures to them sheep. And really that's what you need to be working on to try and improve your genetics, improve your growth rates, and also help the environment.
And Sheep Ireland, we had a meeting with them a couple of weeks ago, and they had some good data to show that they were having buy-in before they even launched the scheme, and then when the scheme was launched you can see where the graph does increase quite quickly, but they were having quite good buy-in because farmers were seeing the benefit. And their incentive is, if a farmer can buy a performance recorded ram, that farmer knows, figures what that ram is going to deliver for them. We have a member that would say they go to some sales in Northern Ireland and it could be a one-page of 200 rams on it, where you should be getting a full catalogue, being to know what the outcomes that ram's going to deliver for you. So even a farm just buying one performance recorded ram, the difference that could make for them.
I think some of the grievance that sheep farmers would have is that we're going to be left behind here. We see ROI and we see Scotland and England moving on with genetics and one thing or another. We're getting not the same opportunity to do that, and with more aging farming, we want to attract the young farmers into the sheep sector, and we want to keep our industry there and keep.
I think from what you're saying, there seems to be a willingness within the industry to do that, to try and progress.
But we're also very limited with Tongue at the minute. We can't go over to GB to buy our performance recorded rams, and you can go to ROI to buy them, but it's a wee bit more difficult. So there's very little performance recorded sheep sold in Northern Ireland, so we're at a serious disadvantage to even starting off.
Okay. All right, thanks, Declan, Vice Chair.
Thank you, and thanks very much for the presentation, and well done on producing a report as well. And it's very user friendly as well, so thanks for that. It's easy for us to navigate through here. And I think I want to make the point, and a point that I've made before, that I do believe that the sheep sector has been hard done by. I think that I would say a lot of sheep farmers are on SDA land, and the first was the removal of the ANC payment, which would have probably a disproportionate impact on sheep farmers, and then secondly, the new policy which would effectively modulate 18% of your single farm payment to pay for a beef scheme, whilst there's no sheep scheme. It just seems grossly unfair, and I'm glad that you have produced this report. And I just got correspondence back from the Minister just today, actually, saying that the department is currently working better to understand the strategic needs, and the Minister said that I will consider deploying levers to meet those needs in due course. So I hope I'm right in saying that the Minister is in listening mode.
Yes.
So just in relation to the response that I got there, the Minister says he'd consider deploying levers to help them meet those needs in due course. What sort of levers would you like to see deployed?
We would like to see some of what we've proposed and implemented. We have met with dear staff over this last week, and we really weren't encouraged by what they were telling us, and we'd like a more clear vision of what we have proposed to go forward. I know not everybody gets what they want, but you go back to the levers thing. It all depends what size of a lever it is, Declan, to move anything forward here. Yeah. We've been sitting here now 18 months or more, trying to get something going forward here. And traditionally, sheep farmers over the past few times that sustainable payments have been changed, sheep farmers have really come out on the wrong side of it. And if you're a solely sheep farmer and can't get, you're losing 18% of your income, it's going to leave you at a disadvantage, especially if you're in a disadvantaged area or a challenging area. And sheep have been an integrated part of that part of the world for generations, as you well know.
Yeah. We do have a meeting with the Minister on the 3rd of October as well, so we're getting good engagement on that side.
Good. Just as we follow up there, Chair, I suppose as you said as well, when I said that they felt that the sheep sector was left behind or not treated fairly, I should have mentioned also the fact that, and you alluded to that the likes of the Farm Business Improvement Scheme wasn't tailored to the needs of the small farmer sectors, and that's the point that I think that we've been making as well, and even some of the strategies come down the road for ammonia, we've been making that point as well, that they need to be tailored to the needs of the smaller the farmer and SDA and Hilly and those who work in more adverse conditions as well. So just all I want to say is thank you for coming along, and well done on producing this report, and hopefully you'll get the results that you're looking for.
Well, can I say thank you very much for listening to us? And no, the sheep sector, especially, I know the sparrows and everyone else are the same, but in the moorns, there's a lot, maybe over 80% of the land would be disadvantaged land. And the sheep is an animal that can produce high quality red meat on very roughish sort of territory. And we have an area of outstanding natural beauty in the moorns, and we have ASSIs as well. And without those livestock on those particular hills and type of land, they wouldn't be what they are today. And if tourism's going to help out our economy, which I hope it does, because generally it's people that go for tours that are men that have money. They're not like a farmer that hasn't got nothing to go nowhere. So it would make a vast big difference, because if those actually sheep farmers go out of that particular land, I mean, the rural economy and the whole rural asset is for the sheep farmers and the farmers to stay on their land. They might only have small plots of land. They have entitlements to graze the common lands as well, and you know, it's the whole infrastructure of the rural community is built around the farming generation, and it brings in a lot of income for all sorts of jobs as well, for creation of you know, fencing and meal farms and all types of things like that there. And the sheep as well are a great thing for harvesting up the ticks that's on the mountain, which is very harmful to recreational users. And as well as that, they keep the ragweed from ordinary land and hill land as well, at no cost at all, without any pesticides or anything else. And I'm a sheep farmer myself. I have cattle as well, but I know the sheep farm has been hit very, very hard, and all our members is really disillusioned with losing that, as it's going to be near enough 18% on their basic payment, and they have nothing at all. And I've get phone calls every day and every night about what he's doing with the sheep sector. Well, we can only tell them that we're doing our best, but hopefully yourselves and the rest is listening and will be there to help us out. Thank you very much.
John Blair.
Chair, thank you, and thanks to all of you for being here and for the presentation. Kelly, you've just answered one of the questions, which was about further engagement. You answered it twice. I think you mentioned that there would be further conversations, and then you specifically said there in a recent answer, you're meeting the Minister on the 3rd of October, so that's that one covered. On the issues of, and you've mentioned them a couple of times in the report, they're referenced again under biodiversity in the key requests to the Minister. Carbon sequestration, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and enhancing landscape biodiversity are listed there. Are there specific proposals contained in any report to the Department to deal with those? Any measures proposed?
Yes.
And have the department more specifically been made aware of those?
Well, our report, you know, kind of summarises that, so it does as well. You know, we would be, I suppose,
The full report, yeah.
Yeah, the full report would include it. So, just for an example, would be the likes of grazing sheep and uplands, where there's peatland restoration going on to sequester carbon, reduce greenhouse gas emissions in that sense. We've also mentioned how increasing productivity can reduce your greenhouse gas emissions. So that's just a few examples of, so they have, you know, everything's in the report for them.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
The other thing I think should be said is that experimental work that's going on at the minute in the hills and uplands is showing that the release of carbon dioxide from hill lands nothing like as serious as was previously calculated.
Glenwary's farm is proving that, Caffrey's Hill farm and the Flux Tower is showing really good data at the minute. It's maybe be only up 2 years now, so I don't think the figures have just been fully released, but initially it's showing really good, and that's with sheep being grazed on the uplands, so it's coming out a really good result.
Thank you. Thanks, Carol.
Anya.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you folks for coming in to brief us this morning. I suppose from my own point of view, at a constituency level in Fermanagh, most of our land, I think it's 90%, 91% is all ANC. Going back to your point around young farmers, and I particularly want to focus on that point, has there been any, I suppose, impact assessment done by yourselves at all, looking at the adverse impact of the lack of a sheep scheme that it is having on young farmers?
We haven't done an impact assessment on it, but I would imagine if you were, you know, I don't know what the figure would be, but in terms of the uplands, like it's it's quite scary at the minute, the lack of young people that are actually staying at home to farm uplands. And you know, when that kind of generational knowledge isn't passed down through, grazing the likes of the uplands is a very, you know, it's not just straightforward, and unless that is passed down through, when that is lost, I don't know, you know, what will become of the uplands. But no, we haven't done an impact assessment, but it would be quite useful, something to do.
In practical terms, I've seen customers for ewes and ewe lambs, particularly older ewes, that can generate the value in more of those sheep in a year. There's again quick performance, the value of the lambs that the sheep that you can produce as a quick payback. But obviously that's not the whole story of the enterprise, but it's better than comparable enterprises. The other thing, really, of sheep, we're second in biological efficiency to the dairy cow, and obviously a much later environmental footprint. And something that I think should be aware of the importance of animal health overall, and serious concern that the department's talking about disengaging from the Mighty Business scheme. Now, we've been free from Mighty Business since 1980, and that, along with other production type diseases, any individual farmer is just as, his own flock health's only as good as his worst neighbour, and that's been an issue with sheep scab as well, and that it's difficult for the industry as a collection of individuals to take control and deal with a number of those diseases. So there's a very clear government role for overall responsibility and control of imports and so on comes into that as well. And it would be very concerning if we were to lose ground that had been hard won since the 1980s.
Thank you. And I suppose from my point of view and the department, I'm not too sure how seriously the department is taking the lack of a sheep scheme at the minute. And was it 2023?
Yeah.
Initially, when you had posed the briefing paper to the department, and I suppose within that period of 12 months in between, how many young farmers may have chose another path to go down, especially given the fact that there is additional supports in the south and in GB as well. You know,
the ongoing effects of the 18% when it comes through full swing will have a big impact, you know, long term on sheep farming, especially if you're sheep only. And a lot of farms are, you can see there's 3,700 farms really sheep only. No chance of making that back. Probably doesn't suit them to anything else. Only sheep. They haven't the facilities to go into beef or whatever it be. And you know, if men do decide to quit sheep and go into beef, well then there's more environmental impact too. So we can try and keep them in the business they're in. And the young farmers, even they are doing a bit of off-farm work, if there's, we can keep them on the land, keep the next generation going there. For a time being, that's really what we're after.
It's back again to infrastructure and planning issues. You know, if you are a sheep farmer, you know, getting planning to go into dairy or suckler cows is going to be extremely difficult, and that's where sheep farming, I suppose, for a young farmer with a low investment startup, you know, it can encourage young people into it.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Chair.
Yeah. Patsy?
Thanks very much, Chair, and thank you for your attendance today. Just by the way, you mentioned there, Kelly, data that has been worked up around the carbon impact of the industry. Mm-hmm. Would it be useful or helpful if you could share that with us whenever that becomes available, please? Mm-hmm. Now, and that maybe leads me on to another thing. There's a number of issues that have been raised there. One of the issues of, well, the movement or the change that farmers are going to be working with is that of this concept of just transition and a just transition fund for agriculture. The points that you've been making there, including yourself, about if they're switching over to cattle or anything like that, the impact of that. Have you put these issues to the department around just transition, around the potential of that? And also biodiversity schemes? We know that there's going to be biodiversity schemes being promoted by the department. In other words, I'm coming back to your 5 asks here, or key requests for the Minister. In your chats with the officials, did you cover those, and did you get any sense of a response from the officials that you were talking to about those and maybe other issues that would be helpful to ourselves here in trying to assist you with your case?
Well, Patsy, just to answer your question there, we had requested meetings with officials over the sheep scheme.
Right.
Had got no comeback at all until recently, until we put in a request to meet the Minister. It certainly then appeared that we were fit to meet them.
Right.
So we're in the very early stages of it to try, and we put them points over to them, what we're proposing on the shifts that may come in farming because of the lack of a sheep scheme. And they've took them points on board. And go back to the other, we're talking about farmer by nature, basically what you're talking about. There's a new scheme out. We see no figures in that.
No.
We don't see anything that will entice farmers to be there. There's no figures. And after all, you know, if you're farming, you need profit.
Oh, totally, you need incentive.
And we're not out to
not working for nothing.
not out to get a Klondike out of it, basically, but we're out to keep the people on the land, get a living out of it, and go forward from there. But until recently, we had no meetings with the department over this, and we requested them. But then suddenly, when we had a request for the meeting with the Minister and got that meeting, Deirdre was fit to meet us.
And no, just to get back to the point, what did they? You've met them. You've met the officials. What did they say to you, other than just sort of with tea and biscuits? If you got that.
Well, we didn't get tea. Sorry, we didn't get tea. We didn't get tea. We got no biscuits. But really, to be honest, to be truthfully with you, we were very much left that there'd be no scheme.
Right.
That they hadn't the money. They have seen no budget. That was one of their big things, that they could see no budget. That may be true or maybe not be true. I'm not saying that, but you know, there will be a budget. But we have to try and make the best we can. But we were very disillusioned. I think any of us, you know, Campbell wasn't there, but the rest of us was there that day. And
they made it very clear when they started the meeting, you know, we weren't coming in to get a sheep scheme off them. But they have emailed over questions that they want answered, and they're very keen to arrange meetings following the Minister's meeting. I would say that it's an open door, but sometimes the door seems like it keeps hitting us in the face sometimes. But I think it's better than where we were a couple of months ago, and they have brought on a new member of staff that is looking at sheep. So it's good to see that as well.
I'm sorry for labouring this point. Bringing in somebody to look at sheep could go on forever. Did they give you any measure or any degree of saying, well, we'll get back to you with this, we'll come back to you with the questions that you've asked, these 5 points that you put to us, if you put the whole 5 points to them, and we'll come back to your views on that? Or did they defer to the Minister and say, the Minister's going to have to meet you first and then we'll get back to you with more details? Or
the way they've left it with us is they've kind of told us where their kind of hands are tied and what they can deliver on a scheme and what they can't, and what restrictions they have. So they've told us everything that kind of we can't do and potentially what we could do. Sheep's genetics was talked about a lot that day, so that's where we're going away, and then the Minister's meeting, and then we're going to meet them again and come back with further ideas from the Sheep Task Force.
I think it would be
5 proposals.
I think it would be fair to say that sheep were basically overlooked some years ago. And for example, the launch of the ruminant genetics scheme, whenever we're told that sheep weren't in it, we're promised that it would be within 12 months. Well, that's more than 12 months ago now. And they were also told back in the initial discussions were a report with involving department people that there wasn't a place for sheep in an environmental scheme at that time.
What do you mean by that? There wasn't a place for sheep?
Well, that was there wasn't a consideration. You see, that some people in the department took a view that cattle were NAFIS or NIFAS, and they could monitor things according to looking at the computer reports. They don't have the same sort of reports for sheep, and there wasn't at that time enthusiasm to engage in what data was available on sheep. Now, in more recent times, there has been a much better engagement with the department, and they have looked, recognising, I think, that sheep have been neglected in the scheme of things, that they're attempting to address that, and know that the Minister is keen that it can be addressed, and we're, well, interested to see what we can get out of this situation.
Just to be specific, Chair, because it might be helpful to the committee if we could ask for an update from the department, that to be specific on those things that were kind of left hanging, that haven't moved on, or that they were given an indication that they were going to be working up something on it or given further thought to it. Could you maybe just be specific and list those so that maybe the committee could follow up on that?
Well, I mean, I think you'll be aware that environmental schemes in general haven't progressed. And back on a, you know, and this has gone back 2 years really, then they say, well, yes, you're making a good point about sheep, but we don't see a place for sheep within the environmental scheme as a way of help and support the sheep sector. I mean, we look at the animal health programme, that our sheep health programme in the south is really a very significant financial support to sheep farmers there, which is also encouraging to do the right things in the management of their flock, which would help their production. And we're looking at a situation south of the border where there's advisory work and research work and the genetic progress all integrated and helping move the industry forward. We really just would like to be in a position where we don't see our international competitors getting well ahead of us and us missing out, really.
Okay, thank you for that.
All right,
Chair,
Patsy?
if that's helpful there, maybe we could elicit a wee bit more information from the department along about those issues that Campbell has just raised there, and Kelly there.
William Irwin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and you're very welcome along today. And I can fully understand why sheep farmers feel left out. I mean, I have my constituency, quite a few has rang me and want to know, is there no scheme for, why is the scheme for other sectors and none for sheep? Fully understand that. The 18% or the approximately 18% that you talk about, we worked out what in total that means to industry in monetary terms?
It's very hard to say without the budget set, but it's around 50 million currently with last year's budget.
50 million.
That's in total for
total.
the sucker cow beef carbon reduction scheme and protein scheme.
Yeah, and the department said there's no money for any scheme. But still in all, they're taking almost in the region of 50 million from the industry. So, you know, the sheep is, it seems very unfair that there's 50 million or approximately that been taken from the industry and nothing put back in. And you can fully understand why sheep farmers would feel left out. Do you see down south in their scheme €20 per ewe, 17? That's about, in Northern Ireland's 2 million sheep, that'll probably mean about 34 million. So without some sort of a scheme to help, do you feel that the industry is going to be left behind?
Yes, we do. We feel it's going to be left behind, and you know, there definitely will be a shift from less sheep in the uplands and probably on lowland farms too, because
there's a big demand for sheep meat, like, so that'll be that'll be a step in the wrong direction from every perspective.
And our ewe numbers are already declining, so they are. So they're back slightly on 2022's numbers. And it'll be interesting even next year, just with the bad year of weather that we have. A lot of people and a lot of sheep farmers are, you know, working full time, off farm, part time, and maybe don't see a future in sheep farming, and this might, you know, kind of finalise it for them.
Yeah.
The environment will be the biggest sufferer of any, because that's for the sheep, you know, because the biodiversity all starts after the animals in the hills and everywhere else, and the environment will be the biggest sufferer, as well as the farmer that's producing the sheep meat. He'll be the worst off, but it'll grow into wilderness. It'll be no good to man or beast. So I think that we really do need some. The sheep genetic thing is 100%, but it's going to, as well as Cameron alluded to there, it is one of the faster ones to move in. But I think we need some sort of assistance into sheep industry more immediately rather than 5 years, 6 years on, because at that time the flock would be that much reduced, and as I say, the environment is like a single suffer, in my view. Thank you.
Our prices are already struggling, like, you know, even behind the GB price and the ROI price at the minute. Our lamb price is not as strong as theirs is at the minute.
Yeah. We're asking for something that really will help the industry. We're not looking money for nothing. We're putting forward that farmers do something to receive a payment, and which will help their business and help the rest of the industry.
And the other thing that should be said is that a big part of the value is coming as an exports. So it's money coming into Northern Ireland from the product that's going out, which is.
Let's hope. I think this committee has sympathy for your position, and will support you in this.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. No other questions. To be fair, I do note that what you have said, your requests are specific and targeted. They're not just about giving you money for nothing. They are quite clear and specific, which I think is probably what the department should be looking for at present. Quickly, can I just ask one quick, and you don't have to answer because it's not on the agenda, but there's a lot of sheep meat exported, obviously, and a lot of live sheep exported. The issue around the follow-on from Brexit, has it no impact, has it, or little?
In a technical sense, the factories here have actually better access to the continent than people in GB have, but at the same time, there's been a bigger differential between us and GB than what would have been historic.
All right.
Now, I mean, a lot of the last year, there's been maybe 60, 70 pence a kilogram difference in lamb price between here and the spring of this year. A lamb business near Carlisle have started buying lambs in the market for live export to England because of the price differential.
It paid them to come here and buy lambs and put them back through over in GB.
So the price over there is much higher?
The other thing too, Tom, is that there's tag companies over there have said that there's 1 million less sheep tags sold in the mainland.
Right.
So, you know, there's good prospects for sheep here if we can hold on to our numbers to try and fulfil that gap.
We also have the fear, obviously we mentioned about the Australia and New Zealand trade deal as well, you know, potentially the import of their lamb meat coming in to the UK, you know, could have...
What's the carbon footprint there then? You know?
Yeah. That's something I'm sure you will ask the Minister, as we do. Anyway, look, Kelly, Glenn, Campbell and Sean, thank you very much for your time. It's been most helpful, and we'll be writing off to the department to try and access at least more specific information for you. Okay?
Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, members, I know Patsy's gone out there, but you're happy with the general theme that we asked those questions of the department? All right. Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the oral briefing from the department on the Lough Neagh action plan, if department officials are here. Members, just when we have quorum, if we can skip to agenda item 7 maybe, which is the SR 2024-155 and the Dangerous Dogs Compensation Exemption Schemes Order, Northern Ireland 2024. Refer you to pages 364 to 378 of the pack. The Examiner of Statutory Rules 21st report covers the SR and the correspondence, starting at page 1352 of the pack. At our meeting on the 8th of July, the SL1 and associated explanatory memorandum of the SR was considered and agreed. The SR broadly mirrors the compensation exemption schemes which have been introduced by the UK and Scottish governments. The SR has been a challenge, and we noted in our minutes that it doesn't sit well with the committee. However, public safety concerns had prevailed. The Examiner of Statutory Rules had not drawn any special attention to the rule, and there has been no change to the policy content since the SL was agreed on the 8th of July 2024. The rule is subject to negative resolution procedure and came into operation the 9th of August 2024. Have you any further comments? Are you happy that I put the motion? It's not ideal, we know that, for none of us, and we all accept that. Okay, so I'll put the motion that Committee for Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs considered SR 2024-155 Dangerous Dogs Compensation and Exemption Schemes Order Northern Ireland 2024, and there's no objection to the rule. Members content?
Content.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Just get another bit of business out of the way there, while you get settled. So, obviously, members, this is the oral briefing from the Department on the Lough Neagh Action Plan. You can find that briefing paper from the Department at pages 296 to 315 of your pack. The Clerk's memo summarising the questions that we raised is at pages 316 to 325, and the Lough Neagh Report and Action Plan is at pages 326 to 363. We have with us Rory Boyle, Terence Patton and Alistair Carson. Over to you folk. And
okay, good morning everybody, and thanks very much for inviting us along today.
Sorry, just before you go on, Rory, I would ask you to try and keep it to about 10 minutes so
absolutely.
Members with questions then, because I think there'll be
absolutely for sure. So again, firstly, if we could just introduce myself and my fellow panel members. I'm Rory O'Boyle. I'm Deputy Director of Natural Environment Policy Division within the Department. To my right, I have Dr. Alistair Carson, who's the Chief Scientific Advisor within the Department. And to my left, I have Terence Patton, who is the Head of Water Policy. Okay. We've had a sort of a pivotal role, or we've had some role in the preparation of the report itself. Terence and his team have been the postbox. They've been the team that have been putting the report together. They've been the team. Sorry, is there an issue? Sorry, they've been the team who've been putting the report together. I've had the governance and oversight role on the actual report itself, and Dr. Carson has been he's been chairing an independent science advisory group to feed into the report with leading experts and professionals and across the UK and in Ireland. Now, as you are aware, the Minister gained executive approval in mid-July for the report itself, and it would be remiss of me on behalf of the Minister not to thank the committee for your support in helping get the report across the line. The report in itself was a number of months in the making. It was some 10 months in preparation, and it's a 37-point cross-departmental action plan. I think the point that we'd like to make today is it is not a wish list. It is a detailed, science-led, proportionate and ambitious set of actions that we feel can make a tangible difference to our waterways. But I think in my opening remarks today, I think it's very important to say that in this scenario there will be no quick fixes. This is a long process, and I know one of the questions you had asked us was, how long do we think this could take? It could take 20, 30, 40 years. We don't really know. But there's one thing for sure: there are no quick fixes, given the depth and the complexity of the situation at Lough Neagh itself. On the background to the report itself, its origins basically are emanating from the water, the blue-green algae crisis that we first experienced significantly, most recently in 2023, and what that led to was the establishment of a DERA and DFI water quality steering group. Feeding on from that then, so this group had responsibility for identifying potential viable solutions to tackle the algae, and to assist the steering group, a review was carried out by a review team of senior staff across the department. This review was also supported by staff from the Environment Agency, the Department for Infrastructure and our partners in Northern Ireland Water. So the report itself, I know you've had a chance to see it, and you've furnished us with some questions on that. I'll talk about that in a moment. But what it basically does is sets out the background to the problems at the loch itself, and not just the loch, but more widely across the waterways in Northern Ireland. But the main focus is an action plan to address the main cause of the blue-green algae blooms, which is emanating from phosphorus from agriculture and some wastewater treatment works, effluent getting into our waterways. So our interventions need really to focus on this. Going sort of hand in glove with the report itself, I think it's important that we would acknowledge that a significant part of potentially resolving the Lough Neagh issues is looking at the biodiversity issues at the loch itself, and they are equally vital that we tackle those issues because they are vital to the recovery of the lake. It's not the main focus of this report, but it's very clear that we need to look at robust conservation measures to try and restore the ecological resilience of the lake itself, and that will play an integral part in the health of the loch. And you will be aware that these have been set out in our first Northern Ireland Environment Strategy. You will also be aware that the Environment Strategy and Northern Ireland's first Environment Improvement Plan has of yet not been approved by the Executive. Our Minister and the officials would see this as a key plank of environmental policy, and our Minister will continue to bring this to his Assembly colleagues in an effort to get this across the line. Again, your support and your help would be greatly appreciated in taking this forward on our behalf. So in advance of the meeting, as Lord Elliott has said, we would have received from ourselves a series of answers to questions that you had posed for us, and we have provided a written update for your consideration. But just to reinforce on the report itself, there are 4 main planks in the report, and the pillars are of education, investment, regulation, and the enforcement piece. And we also have included in the report actions that will be taken forward to enhance our scientific knowledge. So just to set that in a little bit of context, so we'll endeavour to provide as much of an answer as we can today to expand on some of the answers we've given you, if we can. But I think it's very important to say that the role that myself and Terence would have had was in populating the report, was in pulling the report together. Dr. Carson would have been involved in implementing his scientific expertise and experience on that. So we will endeavour to try and answer your questions today. However, if there's anything that we can't bottom out at the meeting today, we will provide you with an answer in writing after the meeting is over. Just a couple of final things to say. So there are a number of issues, and successful delivery and oversight of the actions to address the problems at Lough Neagh will hopefully improve the water quality of all our water bodies throughout Northern Ireland. But it is very clear that there will need to be a partnership approach here. This will very much our ability to deliver, to improve the water situation in Northern Ireland will be on the back of significant amount of consensus building, the ability to be able to create a strong consensus, and the ability to be able to work with stakeholders, with local government, the community, various other departments, but to work with them in a partnership and in a collaborative role. Just in terms of our own situation, just to provide you with an update in terms of where we're coming from on the governance side, on the governance piece. So one of the things that we had said in the report would be that we were going to appoint a project manager or a team leader or somebody to take the actions forward, to take the implementation and delivery of the report forward. Can confirm that a new head of the Lough Neagh delivery and governance team was appointed and took up post this week. And their role will be to establish the Lough Neagh and governance team, and they will develop an appropriate management structures for the delivery of the plan itself. In advance of them coming, we also have commenced development of a Lough Neagh stakeholder management plan, and we're in the process of finalising now a communications plan. And these plans will help manage and coordinate stakeholders, which, as I just alluded to earlier, is a key determinant on our ability to be able to deliver. There are a number of stakeholder events which are ongoing, and our colleagues in Lough Neagh are having 3 stakeholder events within the next month. Okay, so just to finish off then, so I'm aware that we have already scheduled some complementary report briefing sessions. I know we have a couple of officials coming to talk to you about NAP, and there are some other areas that you're particularly interested in. Just to say, as we move through the action plan, as we move through delivery, it will be the intention of the department to keep the committee informed, to feed you information as you need it. If there are instances where you feel you would benefit from a presentation or discussions with subject area experts, well then we'll be happy to do that, and we'll be happy to bring that forward. So that's really where we are right now. And again, thanks for the opportunity to come and speak to you today.
Thank you very much for that update. And I don't know where the chair said he had to go off to a family funeral, and I'm deputising for him here. So thank you very much for that update. I suppose one of the questions I want to ask before we move around the room is, I think it was just a couple of days ago, a colleague, my Pat Sheehan, asked a question about the need for a rescue package for people involved in the fishing industry whose livelihoods have been impacted by the blue-green algae. And the Minister said that he was to meet with them yesterday. Do you have any update from that discussion he had with the fishing industry yesterday, and would there be any possibility of a rescue package for these fishers who have been so adversely impacted?
Yeah, well, sorry, Chair, I wouldn't have an update on the meeting itself, but as I said earlier, what we can do is we can come back to you on that, and we'll provide you with a written answer on it as to any progress. But I know that the Minister does take the role and the impact on fisheries very, very, very seriously, and I know he's been scheduling this meeting for some time, so we will come back to you in writing on that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rory. I'll move around the room. Michelle?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I suppose really from the early meetings that we had last year, I think we did recognise that this was going to be a long-term process, and there wasn't going to be any quick fixes, particularly with relation to sort of changing behaviours and so on, particularly around the loch. But I guess what we will be hit with time and time again over the next number of years will be that sort of visual of the blue-green algae across not only the loch but also some of the rivers leading into that. And I suppose there really isn't any way of getting around that, but at the same time it is then does become quite disturbing. You have in the report the prospect of having the SPRI piece, and I know that we've been inundated with various projects and innovations that perhaps could create a quick fix as such. I suppose I was a bit concerned in the response that you gave back to the committee that there would be no commitment necessarily to a phase 2. So really what I want to ask you is, what does phase 1 need to demonstrate in order for there to be a phase 2?
Sure. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, there's a recognition that the core issue is dealing with the catchment management and reducing pollution into the loch. But even with that, there are significant legacy issues in terms of phosphorus release, particularly from the sediment, which has built up over many decades. So we are conscious of, and the Science Advisory Group recognise that, as well as the core focus on, which is rightly in the report in terms of catchment management options, looking at in-lake management options to treat or reduce blue-green algal blooms is important to investigate, recognising that it isn't easy. So there's a number of angles of taking this forward. One is more basic research to understand the potential for nutrient recovery from harvesting aquatic plants, invasives from the loch, and the blue-green algae itself. AFBI have responded to a research call that we put out, and that more detailed research, and also to look at what the potential is in terms of sustainable management of that vegetative material when you collect it. So looking at the biogas potential for it. So work has already commenced in a preliminary basis on this to scope out what the nutrient content of the material is, for example, with it. That will complement the industry-led small business research initiative. And the first phase of the programme is to look at proposals that put forward in terms of potential in-lake management options, and looking at the development of proof of concept of those. That's really the first phase, because the lake, as we all know, many of these in-lake management options have been developed for small lakes. So the lough is 39,000 hectares. And there are a number of environmental considerations to take on board in assessing any of the potential for in-lake management options. So that first phase will allow those issues to be teased out with it. Phase 2 is then taking forward, the successful management options into a larger scale type work itself. And obviously, in terms of funding, that will be bid for, and as the process comes through the phase 1. And also in the overall area, we're also keeping in mind that in terms of research, we try wherever possible to do this collaboratively with other research funders. And the Natural Environment Research Council have been part of our science advisory group, and we would hope there would be opportunities for co-funding arrangements in the future as well. So the first phase is proof of concept, and then the phase 2 approach would be taking forward those project proposals which have successfully gone through the proof of concept phase.
Okay, so really what you're saying is that what we see this year on the media, we will see again next year, because there won't be any intervention as such at that point.
Yes, I mean the risk of blue-green algal blooms because of the level of nutrients in the lake is really high, and we've seen it this year again itself, and we have to recognise that.
Okay. The other question I just want to ask, Chair, or Deputy Chair, if you don't mind, is just in relation to enforcement. And we're aware that there are a number of players in relation to this. Obviously, agriculture, NI water, septic tanks, and so on. And it's really about your approach to enforcement and whether that will be that one sector will be seen as being maybe the heavy hand being brought down on them, as opposed to some of the others, because obviously there are bigger players than maybe the farmer, particularly around sort of Northern Ireland watering.
Yeah, so I think that's a very valid point. And if I don't know if you were in the chamber on the day the Minister launched the report, but I think his comment on that day was, if we get to enforcement, well then we have failed. And I suppose what the message there is that they want to look at, as part of the report itself, an education process, which means that we don't get to the stage where there is a higher level of enforcement, as you say, which is targeting one area. Certainly that would not be the case. There is a scenario where there has been some additional funding granted for additional potential enforcement, but really that's more around the education side of things, more targeted enforcement. So yes, there would be no concept at all that one group would be seen to be being set upon as opposed to another group. Yeah, we would have insurance on that.
So if my septic tank, for example, was deemed to be causing a problem, you would just come and have a conversation with me around it. Is that what we're talking about in relation to enforcement?
Realistically, we're talking about targeted enforcement and education, where we wouldn't want you to get to the point that your septic tank would overflow. Hopefully, we would have it emptied in time, and there wouldn't be an issue.
I'm a Ballygown, so it will not be an issue, but. Unless you move the boundaries of it. But okay, so your hope is that you're not going to need enforcement?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we have been talking to our colleagues in DOJ to do a review in and around the fixed penalties and potential enforcement actions. So there's a piece of work ongoing on that, yes indeed.
Okay, well, maybe come back to that one. Thank you.
Michelle. Okay, Patsy.
Thanks very much, Chair, and thank you for for being with us here today, and also your offer to keep us up to date. Could I maybe just ask, well, there's a number of things, maybe just no particular order, but you mentioned and you touched on the importance of the environmental improvement plan. Just reading between the lines on the, or maybe I'm reading too much between the lines in the document here. The environmental improvement plan, will it delay or inhibit elements of the Lough Neagh action plan from taking place? And following on from that, it would be useful, I see various timetables here for different aspects of this. It would be useful, because obviously I represent a good part of the western shore of Lough Neagh and live within 1 mile of it. It would be useful for local residents to see, say in 12 months' time or 24 months' time, what actions will they see, tangible actions will they see in and around the proximity of Lough Neagh. That would be very, very important. And then if I could maybe just come up, because at the moment I'm already getting, I know it's not directly your remit, but I'm already getting communications about people perceiving or tasting a difference in the quality of water just in the last week. There's the water supply that they're getting through the taps in sort of the Ballyronan and Magherafelt areas. So that's obviously a big concern as well for the wider community who have been serviced from Lough Neagh for the water supply. Then finally, I see the SBRIs mentioned there, and maybe just a few observations on that. How confident you would be that in fact a project will emanate from this which could contribute to diminishing or reducing the algal bloom on Lough Neagh, and maybe with that if we could have some insight into what the expert group has been doing, please.
Okay, well, Patsy, I'll take the first question on the EAP, and I think rather than inhibit the Lough Neagh plan, we would see this as a piece of legislation and a piece of work that would actually complement it.
Oh no, sorry, what I meant, the absence of the EIP.
Well, yes, well, and
just so that you're not picking up wrong what I'm saying.
Okay, well, I mean, as I said earlier, I mean the EIP will have a number of measures in it, and they're robust conservation measures. They will definitely read across into the work that we're doing on, or potentially going to do on Lough Neagh. So, I mean, I think the Minister and the Department have made their position quite clear. They would like to see the EAP and the Environment Strategy implemented, and it will be complementary to...
I've read that, but would the absence of an EIP delay or inhibit any actions that will improve the condition of Lough Neagh?
I'm not sure. I would need to come back to you on that, but
I think that would be helpful.
We would see it definitely as a complementary piece of work.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, on the, do you want to say anything about the SBRI?
Yeah, Patsy, just about the work of the Science Advisory Group and what it's been done. Mm-hmm. So just to say briefly, the Science Advisory Group had 8 external experts from across the UK and Ireland representing a range of science organisations, and that work helped underpin the Lough Neagh Action Plan, the report and the action plan itself. Mm-hmm. That group is now coming to an end as the work and the report has been published. So it was important in terms of examining the potential for in-lake management options, and then that led to the development of the SBRI and helped inform the SBRI itself. We're now moving on to the delivery phase, and we have a science oversight group, and that contains representatives from AFBI, Queen's, UU, our new co-centres that we have established on climate plus water plus biodiversity, and Northern Ireland Water, and across the Dara family. And it's working to ensure a coordinated approach is taken to the delivery of the science-related actions within it. So now it's moving on to the actions within the report and making sure a joined-up approach. So in answer to the question, what the Science Advisory Group did, it did the underpinning review of in-lake management options to show what potentials there were, what issues needed to be considered, which informed the development of the SBRI. Now those proposals will come in and will be assessed. But the overall science-related actions will be undertaken in a coordinated manner across those main Northern Ireland delivery partners, but we also want to maintain some of the expertise from our science advisory group to act as critical friends as we go through this process, and also to maintain those links across the UK and Ireland internationally with other groups who are dealing with similar issues. So that's what the role of the science advisory group has. I guess back to the question in terms of the environmental improvement plan, there are multiple pressures here affecting the loch, and we have to consider that. There's nutrient pollution, there's phosphorus, there's nitrogen, there's also climate, there's also invasive species. And we have to realise this multiple pressure type of things requires overall overarching type work, which is directed by the environmental improvement plan. I think that's the key issue in this, that we're dealing with multiple pressures, and we're not alone in this. You know, across the world internationally, the frequency and extent of blue-green algal blooms in lakes has been increasing. The underpinning issue being nutrient pollution, but obviously with increase in global temperatures, that increase in water temperature is driving both the frequency and the extent of blue-green algal blooms. And so we have to, by maintaining those links, well, then we can realise, okay, what's under our control here, and maybe some of the observations that we're seeing could be due to factors outside our control, and we have to understand that.
And Chair, just the tangible actions that people locally can anticipate to see in the next 12, 24 months, because that's going to be how people will judge the effectiveness of the Lough Neagh Action Plan.
Yeah, well, Patsy, I mean, I think I alluded to it in my opening remarks. I think the ability to be able to deliver this plan will be, focused on a partnership approach. That partnership approach will be very much driven by key stakeholders and engagement with key stakeholders.
I understand that bit and understand that concept, but what key stakeholders and all that sort of stuff's grand. We understand that, and there's probably so many stakeholders and bodies, and I've served on them myself down through the years whenever I was a councillor. Right, that's grand. I'm talking about tangible actions that people locally will be able to see, to have confidence. Yes, there's a Lough Neagh Action Plan. Yes, this Lough Neagh Action Plan is working for me and for future generations in the interests of that lovely asset that we have.
Yeah, and that's fair comment. I would see that the appointment now of a project manager within the department to drive forward implementation, to focus on the delivery of outcomes, to delivery of actions within the plan itself. That will be the mechanism which will allow us to report to the committee, to report to yourselves on what has been delivered within a set period of time.
Okay. So I'm not putting it all on you. Don't expect to have every fact and figure at your fingertips today. But
maybe I could just say some of the science-related actions.
Sure,
maybe
that'll be grand.
I don't want to cut in, but
all I was just going to finish off what I was saying was it perhaps would be helpful, Chair, if the committee had a report from that manager whenever he or she gets their feet under the table and is fully up to speed with what lies ahead of them. And sorry, Alistair, I'll let you continue with your update there.
Sure, it was just really just to, in terms of actions that will be seen. So first of all, it's not on the loch itself, but it's really important that we're developing a science portal. So that the data will be made publicly available and there, and really help in terms of stakeholder engagement and actions. And we're wanting to move to near real-time monitoring, and are investing and looking to invest in the infrastructure to allow that in terms of providing data in terms of water quality at local level in near real time, and also the range of science work that we're doing. Obviously, there will be the work that I alluded to in terms of the in-lake management options, the more detailed research by AFBI, the SBRI. Also, there will be work going on in terms of from a science perspective, in terms of looking to reduce phosphorus inputs with it. Shortly, a dairy demonstrator research project will be commenced, which is a major research project funded by DEFRA, but with a very strategic Northern Ireland perspective, looking at feeding diets on dairy farms with lower nitrogen levels, with lower phosphorus levels, and with formulations to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to test those. And that would be a really important part of it. We've got the Soil Nutrient Health Scheme, which is a really important piece that's carried out on farms. Will be moving to the third area to provide farmers information in terms of the overall nutrient status of their soils and help inform where slurry is managed on the farm itself. We'll also be looking at, and are in terms of the data side of things, having that much more local data in real time and moving to having source apportionment at a more local scale itself. Also, we're looking at the opportunities for satellite data and other aerial photography to come in to help track and understand the movement of blooms itself, and again making that data available through the science platform. So I think there are a range of, from a science perspective, there's a range of initiatives which will help inform that stakeholder engagement. And be part of it, and also help us to monitor and evaluate the actions that we were taking.
One brief question, Chair, please. That's in regard to the SBRI initiative. Based on your soundings, is maybe the wrong word to use whenever I hear some of these guys are proposing sonic material, but would you be confident that the upshot of the SBRI initiative will bring something, some measure or some activities or some new science or maybe used science from other jurisdictions that could help on Lough Neagh? Sure.
Well, certainly the Science Advisory Group felt that there was enough evidence to support really exploring the areas in real detail, but recognising that it will need development and application for Lough Neagh, because back to the issues around the size and scale of the lough, and it may be that it could be, and some of the applications may be directed at a more local level or a region within the lough rather than the whole lough in the first instance. So we would be hopeful, but that's what science is to do, it's to test. Yes. So I do have to put the cautionary note in that as a challenge, is a major challenge with it. But we're confident that we have got, from a science perspective, the international network connections there to, learn from others, but also to have a framework to allow industry to come in and put forward its proposals and allow, a robust evaluation of them. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Patrick, just pick up your final point was on the drinking water quality.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So obviously, if anybody has an issue with quality of the water, they should contact NI Water and report it. I know there's monitoring goes on 24/7, but if there are any local issues, then they should report it to NI Water.
Okay.
Very important. Yeah. Thanks very much, Chair, for bearings there.
All right, John.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to the representative of the department today for the presentation this morning, but also the answers already provided in the report that you sent to the committee. Chair, before I ask a couple of questions, I want to say that one of the questions answered in the report to the committee that I referenced there deals specifically with the Environmental Improvement Plan. There's been additional information given this morning, and the Minister has answered questions in the Chamber. I have asked questions and will continue to do so, but I think it's probably fair to put the marker down here today that if we don't see some progress on that soon at the Northern Ireland Executive, then we probably need to write as a committee, and I might be making that request, because this will be a test of the shoulders that need to go to the wheels on the Environmental Improvement Plan, the environment in general, and Lough Neagh in particular in the months and years ahead. And on that point, and I hope you don't mind me asking in very simplistic terms this first question, which I simply can't resist, but isn't this the simple reality that when you have a lough with the problems that have been so clearly identified, and you know that the levels of phosphates are 7 times what they should be, and the levels of nitrates are 1.5 times what they should be, and then you have to add to that wastewater treatment issues and the lack of investment and the septic tank problems as well. Then in the context of quick fixes, if I can say that without it becoming a tongue twister, In the context of quick fixes, isn't the quick fix really the quicker you stop those levels of pollutants and toxins flowing into that loch, then the quicker you fix the problem? Isn't that really the crux of this? Whether that's 12 months, 12 years, or any other finite period of time?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the core issue in terms of the overall loch is nutrient pollution with it, and that's why the core of the report is the catchment management. So while dealing with in-lake management options, that's not dealing with the core issue. That's just trying to manage a position as best possible, but doesn't go away or shouldn't dilute from the focus in terms of dealing with the core issue itself. I don't think the timescales involved in full recovery shouldn't deter us from really moving ahead and from implementation of the actions. Dealing with the loss of the nutrients into the water bodies will have shorter term benefits in the aquatic environment, in the streams and rivers flowing into the loch. Those benefits will come through more quickly, and it'll start the road to recovery to the loch's ecology itself. And I think it's really important to have that balance, to recognise the long-term nature of this and the long-term features in terms of dealing with it, but not to dilute the need for action now, and and recognise that there will be some shorter-term benefits seen in the wider aquatic environment by doing so, and also reducing hopefully the frequency and extent of the blue-green algal blooms without likely to eliminate them in the near future, but hoping to control and manage them.
Yeah, thanks, Alistair. And I asked that very deliberately because there's no doubt as all the negatives emerge, and they will, and it's understandable that people will want to see progress. And it's understandable that there'll be, I had it this summer, and we'll have in the early autumn as well, when my constituents are walking down to the loch with their dog, they can't let the dog off the lead, they're afraid to go anywhere near the water. And then I'm speaking also, like other constituency representatives, to those who live and trade around the shores of the loch. And the speed at which we see progress will be frustrating. And therefore we will have to go back, I think, to those simplistic terms. Well, here's what we're pumping into that loch currently, and here's the length of time that it will take to try to fix that. But don't please fool ourselves that there won't be some hurt and some pain along the way for some people and some sectors, and there will all of those involved in the contributing to the effects on Lough Neagh will have to do something to put this right, however long that takes. The second question is not unrelated to that, which is the size of the catchment area of Lough Neagh. Absolutely huge. And can we take it that any engagement or consultation will be very deliberately targeted at the wider catchment area and not just at the loch itself and Lough and Loughshore partners themselves?
I think that the Minister has been very clear, John, in the last number of weeks and months that there are a multitude of stakeholders, and I think he spends a significant amount of time in going to see all of those stakeholders. I think there is a need for a more coordinated approach on our behalf, a more targeted approach, and I think yes, that what that does, that will need to include all the stakeholders in all of the areas that are affected. So we are developing a hardcore comms communication plan right now, and that definitely will include stakeholders from all throughout the catchment areas. Do you want to say anything else?
No, I was going to just add to that, John, was that yes, about 43% of the land area in Northern Ireland feeds into Lough Neagh, but the science-related actions that we're talking about will be effective across Northern Ireland in total. And the data that we're collecting is a Northern Ireland-wide perspective. So although the outworkings will be focused on Lough Neagh, the data will be collected and the interventions will be equally relevant right across Northern Ireland to deal with the issue in the water bodies across Northern Ireland, because we absolutely recognise that it's just not a Lough Neagh issue. So there will be that wider Northern Ireland aspect to the data and the science-related actions that are undertaken.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marie.
Yeah. In relation to the science-related actions, can I ask this? Will explanations be offered along the way as to why some things cannot be considered, why some applications and suggestions might be considered, but that is reflected to the public to explain why some things are not doable? I mean, as a layperson in these terms, I can understand that the size and scale of Lough Neagh makes it pretty unique. and then you have the ban flowing into it and out of it into the sea. In a relatively small geographical area, you have this very significant body of water. And the truth is that simplistic solutions that I've seen and experienced and dealt with in the past, like throwing a few hay bales into a mill pond, is not going to cut it. In Lough Neagh, or frankly something a half or a quarter of that size. So will there be explanations given of the consideration of the science as well as the rejection of some of the science?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I made reference just at the outset that most of the in-lake management options have been developed for lakes of 100 acres or lower, and we're dealing with, well, that's 40 hectares or lower, and we're dealing with a loch of 38,000 hectares. So many of the barriers to this are just the sheer volume of water that we're dealing with, but also the sensitivity of the environment that we're dealing with and the range of protections which the loch has. I think it's a good point that you make, and those issues are picked up and have been picked up by the Science Advisory Group. But in terms of our communications, I think we'll take that forward in terms of just ensuring that communications around that are explained and in a transparent manner.
Yeah. And also, Chair, very finally, to seek assistance from stakeholders and partners, like local councils in particular, in getting those messages out there.
I think, John, we're looking at other jurisdictions. We're looking at other initiatives and trying to get some learning from that. I mean, I think the way we communicate, the way we deliver our messages, the use of social media. I think we are developing and currently in the process of putting in place a detailed communication plan on this. So we will need to look at how we're going to communicate on a wider basis. As I say, there are ongoing events as we speak with a range of stakeholders. Our colleagues in NAA have 3 targeted sessions in the next month. So I mean, this will be an ongoing process, but as I said to you earlier, it's vitally important that we do engage with stakeholders. It's vitally important that we do get buy-in, because if we don't get buy-in, we don't get feedback, this is not going to work.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And finally, Anya.
Thank you, Chair. And just folks, a quick one from myself. I don't know if you're aware, but there is a document due to be published before the end of the year. It was a collaborative document, and it's in relation to shared water, and it comes off the back of the river basin management plan. Will this document tie in with the action plan itself in dealing with water quality and blue-green algae in the weeks and months to come?
Yeah, so the river basin management plan is still in draft. This document plus the report from the Office of Environment Protection and the Northern Ireland Audit Office report will feed into the consideration the Minister will have on a final river basin management plan to bring forward. The shared waters document is the high-level document between ourselves and Ireland for the transboundary waters. So Ireland have obviously published their river basin management plan last week of the 5th. Once the ministers had time to consider the 3 reports I just mentioned, hopefully our river basin management plan will come for publication, and then the shared waters document would follow. We do have constant collaboration with colleagues in Ireland as well. So yeah, and work is ongoing in the background along all those areas.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Okay then, as we've no other members wishing to speak, I want to just thank you very much for Rory, Alistair and Terence for coming along here this morning. Very comprehensive, and you answered all of the questions in great detail. So thanks very much, and no doubt we'll be seeing you in time ahead. Okay. Members, if you're okay, can we just take a 5 minutes comfort break? Is that okay?
Committee Room 21. Sound. 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 Committee Room 21. Sound.
Okay. Okay, we're resuming here now, folks, at agenda item 8, because the earlier item was covered when one of our the chair was here. The HUP certification amendment, regulations NI 2024. 2024. DARE intends to make a DARE intends to make a statutory rule, the HUPS Amendment Regulations NI 2024. If you recall, we received a written briefing on the background to this at our meeting on the 13th of June. These regulations will amend the HUPS Certification Regulations 1979 as they apply to here, primarily to maintain enforcement powers for updated EU rules on HUPS certification and imports from third countries, which are directly applicable here under the Windsor Agreement. The majority of these changes are technical, as there are no HUPS producers in Northern Ireland, so the EU's new HUPS certification regulations should have no impact here. The SR will be laid before the Assembly under the negative resolution procedure and is anticipated that it will come into operation on the 18th of October 2024. A copy of the SR is attached at Annex A and a copy of the explanatory memorandum is attached at Annex B. Members, do you have any comments on the SL1? Are you content to note? Note.
Yeah, I suppose my concern in relation to tonight, I know the advice that we've got from officials is that this is purely technical and may not have an impact on Northern Ireland, but for me it does create a divergence with GB, so I would be praying against this one, if you don't mind, Chair.
Yeah. What procedure do we?
Do you wish us to... This is the SL1, so this is the policy stage. Do you want...
Just to indicate that that would be our position in relation to that.
Yeah.
I'm also against this one. Okay.
Would you wish to hear from the officials?
We have heard from officials on this.
We had a written briefing, but we didn't have an oral briefing.
Well, the principle would remain the same. Happy to have a presentation, but I suppose really just for you to note that that would be my concern in relation to
when
this.
it comes to the SR.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. We note that there, Michelle. Okay. Thank you.
Do members want a presentation on this?
Well, do members want a presentation on this?
To vary that?
Could I hop over that one?
If the problems or objections are separate to the policies, which they clearly are, and on EUGB matters, then I don't see the need to have a presentation on the policy when no issues around the policy have been raised.
So no objections, we're okay for not having the presentation, but you're outlining your intention of being against it?
Yeah, well, unless the officials were able to convince me of otherwise, but if the principle's the same in relation to that this would create divergence, and perhaps we want to ask officials to give us the extent to which there will be divergence and the situations that we create as a consequence of that, then that would be useful.
Okay. Members happy then we do get a presentation?
Well, this is a conversation that's been on since 2016 and before. If people want to continue it, then fine, absolutely, yeah.
So, are you happy enough to ask for a presentation?
Whatever.
Either happy or unhappy, but I'm not going to vote against it.
Not exactly hopping up and down, Chair.
Okay, we'll ask for
I think it's
presentation.
probably to belt and braces that we'll have a presentation, yeah.
Okay, members, agenda item 9, written briefing, DAERA Business Plan 24-25, pages 391 to 418 of the pack. We all probably need some time to consider the business plan. Do you wish to request a briefing at this stage on the business plan and how it links to the PFG, or to request the briefings in future highlight specifically the links to the business plan and PFG if any policy developments?
I think an oral briefing, Chair.
Oral briefing?
Yeah.
Proposed by Anya?
Aye.
Yep.
That's okay.
Okay, great.
Perhaps, Chair, if Anya doesn't mind giving me the proposal with a particular emphasis on budget.
Yeah.
That's possible.
EFG and budget?
We will have officials on the 3rd of October regarding October monitoring and wider budgetary issues. So, just comments on that. Thanks.
Okay, members. Item 10, correspondence. We're looking at correspondence that arrived during summer recess. 10.1, members at page 419 to 420. This correspondence memo. Items are listed in order, and I'm going through them rather than purely in date order. At 10.2, members start. I'm going to deal with two linked items. First, I refer to correspondence dated the 4th of July at pages 422 to 25. 422 to 425 from the clerk to the finance clerk of Committee for Finance regarding financial provisions bill. Bill legislation on behalf of 7 departments and 17 new legislative provisions will be taken forward as outlined in Annex A of the correspondence. Only one of the 17 items is specific to DAERA, the marine licensing amendment to provide DAERA with greater powers to charge fees for aspects of the marine licensing process. Consultation on that aspect of the bill will run from the 9th of July to 31st of August. Secondly, I refer to correspondence from the Department's Marine and Fisheries Division dated the 9th of July, 426 to 461 of the pack regarding the proposals to revise marine licensing fees. Consultation on this ended on the 3rd of September. Members, we received a written briefing on this matter on the 20th of June, and the minutes of that meeting show that the committee noted it will be advised of responses to the consultation, receive a copy of an SL1 and respective amendments to the Marine Licensing Application Fees Regulations NI 2011, and will be briefed at appropriate stages of the Financial Provisions Bill. Members, you can tend to note these items of correspondence and request a briefing on the consultation responses and an update on the process of the relevant part of Financial Provisions Bill in due course. Right. I'm going to refer you now to a number of annual reports and accounts that have been received over the recess. 10.3 pages 462 to 555 is the NI Forest Service Annual Report and Accounts 2023-24, laid in the Business Office on the 5th of July. 10.4 at pages 556 to 680 of the pack is the Agri-Food and Biosciences AFPI Annual Report and Accounts 2023-24, laid in the Business Office on the 8th of July. At pages 681 to 792 of the pack is the NI Environment Agency Annual Report and Accounts 2023-24, laid in the Business Office on the 8th of July. Pages 793 to 994 is the Livestock and Meat Commission Annual Report and Accounts for 2022, 23, 23 and 24, laid in the Business Office on the 9th of July. Pages 995 to 1026 is the Inland Fisheries Annual Report 2022 and 2023, laid in the Business Office on the 7th of July. This includes a link to the PDF version. At pages 1027 to 1113 is the annual reports and accounts 2023-24 for the Agriculture and Horticulture Development Board, laid in the Business Office on the 2nd of August. A link to the electronic copy is included. Members, are you content to note these reports and accounts, or any comments you want to make to be made in relation to these? Content to note them?
Yeah.
Okay. Members, correspondence from the department dated this 22nd of August at pages 1114 to 1158 of the pack regarding the forthcoming dilapidation bill. A policy consultation was undertaken in 2016 and a copy of a synopsis of responses is provided. The department states that an overwhelming majority of respondents express a preference for the development of such a bill that would consolidate and amend much of the existing Victorian legislation and supplement it with new provisions in respect of low-level dilapidation and dangerous buildings. The previous year committee indicated support for such a bill in January 2017. Are there any comments you wish to make at this stage, or are you content to receive the briefing on the draft bill in due course? Right. I refer you to the correspondence from the Department dated 11th July at pages 1159 to 1160 of the pack regarding the review of the list of bodies and persons set out in the schedule of the Rural Needs Act 2016. The Act requires DAERA to review the list of at least every 3 years, and it has the power to add or remove a body or person to or from the schedule, or modify any entry. A draft of any order to amend the schedule must be approved by a resolution of the Assembly. The Department is commencing a review of the list of bodies and persons, and a public consultation has been undertaken for the past 8 weeks and closes tomorrow, 13th September. DAERA will prepare a written briefing on the results of the public consultation and share with the committee in late 2024. Are you okay to note this for now? Okay. Members, I refer you to correspondence of 15th of July at 1161 to 62 of the pack from Colette Stewart, Friends of the Earth, requesting papers from our meeting on the 13th of June, namely the NIA update of ammonia planning and consultations and departmental response to the committee regarding the ammonia strategy. This request was referred to the department by the committee team referred on in July, as it is their decision to release these papers or not. Are you content to note? Members, I refer you to an email from the Ulster Farmers Union on the 22nd of July at pages 1162 to 1164, inviting the committee to its Women in Agriculture Innovation Day on the 17th of October at Athby in Hillsborough. The 17th of October is a committee meeting day, and we have an external meeting booked for that date at Mount Stewart, so it will not be possible for the committee to attend this event. Are you content that be right to decline, thanking them for the invitation, hoping that we can attend next year? Yeah. Okay. I refer you to an email from the Assembly's Engagement Office at 1164 regarding the visit of the delegation from the Kwahi South Municipality of the Republic of Ghana, led by Chief Executive Mayor of the municipality, on the 30th of September 2024. The Kwahi South Municipal Assembly is the local administrative authority of the South Municipality of the Eastern region of Ghana. The Engagement Office has been requested that some of the committee meet with the delegation at 2:45 p.m. for an informal discussion regarding farming policy on the 30th of September. The 10-member delegation consists of farmers and professionals who have been brought together to develop a modernised cattle farming policy for the Afram Plains in Ghana. The delegation will be touring modernised dairy and cattle farming setups here. Are you content that members of the committee who are free that afternoon will meet with the delegation? And I'll update members near the time on the room number of the meeting. And will you let Janice know, please, if you're available to attend?
Yep.
Invite from the Landscapes NI at page 1168 regarding an event in the Long Gallery on the 23rd of October linked to the International Day of Landscapes on the 20th of October and the NI Environment Week, which this year is focused on landscapes. Are you content to note this for your diaries? The team will also remind us near the time, and outline of the programme is in the correspondence. Yep. Also, Landscapes NI have offered the committee a meeting and site visit. Belfast Hills Partnership has indicated that they would be very happy to host us as is the Sperrins Partnership. We'd like the team to add this to our list of potential visits.
Yep.
I refer you to correspondence the 2nd of August at 1168 of the pack from the NI Human Rights Commission and Equality Commission, inviting us to the launch of their annual report on implementation of Article 2 of the Windsor Framework. This was already sent to you over the summer, as is happening today at 11 a.m. at the University. That's probably all as we speak. Ulster University Belfast campus, and is also online. You can tend to note, and we'll get a we'll get a report available online. Okay, referring to correspondence the 2nd of August from the Department at pages 1169 to 1174 regarding distribution of the residual Milk Marketing Board legacy assets. The assets of the residual Milk Marketing Board, which have been held by the Department since the dissolution of the Board on the 1st of August 2004. Dear are asking for any comments on the consultation proposals. The Department is proposing to distribute the monies to either the Dairy Council for Northern Ireland to be used for generic promotional activities and or agri-research for research projects connected directly with the dairy industry. The Department is asking for comments from stakeholders and the committee on this proposal to distribute residual assets from the Milk Marketing Board to one or both of those bodies suggested, including how the assets could be used. Also to suggest alternative bodies connected to milk production in NI or benefit producers in the production of milk in NI. Members, do you have any comments you wish to make, or are you content that we request an update on the outcome of this consultation in due course?
Yep.
Okay, welcome. Friday corresponds the 2nd of August from the Grassroots Mountain Bike Trails Organisation, a charity representing over 600 mountain bikers at page 1175 to 1177. They are concerned about the absence of a recreational strategy, health and safety and access policy towards the use of natural, wild mountain bike trails. The organisation had requested a meeting with the Minister and have attached his response. The organisation has requested that we exert our influence to encourage the Minister to meet with them, or for us to meet with them. I propose we seek further information on the Minister's position in the first instance. Is it okay? Get what the story is with the Minister and the Department in the first instance? Okay. Members, email dated the 8th of August at page 1178 from the NI Fiscal Council providing a link to a supplementary note to its assessment of the NI Executive's 2024-25 budget. This note provides further detail on the change in the accounting treatment for leases. This accounting treatment refers to International Financial Reporting Standard 16, which sets out the principles. Members, are you content to note this? Okay. Referring to the correspondence of 26th July at pages 1179 to 1180 in the pack from the Competitions and Markets Authority providing an update on its cost of living work. The CMA will be publishing an interim report in October setting out the concerns they have and provisional recommendations for action. You content to note? Members, I refer you to correspondence at 1181 to 1217 in the pack from the Office of the NI Executive in Brussels regarding the report from April to June 2024. The areas of interest for this committee are mainly under Section 3, agricultural issues and environment issues. Section 3.3, energy update may also be of interest regarding energy performance to achieve net zero emission by 2050 on EU's building block. Members, are you content to note?
Yep.
Okay. Members, refer to correspondence of 22nd of August at 12:18 to 12:32 in the pack from the Department advising the Committee of a technical consultation concerning CORSIA fees and charges. CORSIA stands for the Carbon Offsetting and Reduction Scheme for International Aviation. The NIEA may raise charges to recover costs associated with its regulatory activities associated with the implementation of CORSIA. Members, okay to note? Members, refer to pages 1233 to 1337 of the pack for information in the Department regarding consultation on draft legislation and draft code of practice for material facilities sites. The Department is intended to launch a consultation on amending legislation and the introduction of a code of practice for MFs, material facilities sites. In NI, there are currently no statutory sampling requirements for MFs, unlike other parts. The introduction of the equivalent MF sampling for here was consulted upon in 2021 as part of a UK-wide consultation on extended producer responsibility for packaging. This planned consultation is on the technical detail of the sampling here in NI. MFs are not currently defined in NI legislation, but are specialised plants or part of a plant that receives, separates and prepares recycled material for end markets and further processing. The code and legislation provide a detailed definition of what they are and how operators will know if the code is applicable to them. The committee team...
Sorry. I missed writing in our committee content to note.
Okay, our members of the committee content to note this?
Yeah.
Okay. The committee team has included in the packet pages 1338 to 1352 1351, the executive summary of the OEP review of implementation of the Water Framework Directive regulations and river basin management planning in Northern Ireland. The full document was circulated to committee on the 3rd of September. The OEP has offered to meet with the committee on this report. Do you wish to receive a formal briefing or hold an informal meeting in the near future as our work plan allows? Any preferences? What way does our work plan, what way does it fit in the work plan, Janice?
I mean, we can do either, but we will be tight in the next month or two, you know, for formal briefing. So,
are we okay for an informal big meeting as the work to fit in with the work plan? Is that okay, members? Yeah. Okay. I refer to pages 1352 to 1360 of the pack for the 21st report of the Examiner Statutory Rules. We discussed this earlier when we considered SR 2024-155. Members content to note? Members, we've gone through most items on the correspondence memo. Obviously, you have all the correspondence there, and no doubt you have went through it. Is there any that you wish to discuss, or are you content? Okay.
Content. In relation to the work programme?
The remaining correspondence.
sorry, no, the correspondence, yeah.
It's in your pack, Michelle. Okay. Okay, members, agenda item 11, forward work programme, page 1362 of the pack for the draft forward work programme going through to the 3rd of October. You'll note that next week, the 19th of September, the committee is holding its meeting at the Clandeboy Estate, and there will be a briefing on its sustainable farm, including its anaerobic digester and a tour. There will also be a briefing from RAISE on just transition, climate change, one of our focus topics from the planning meeting in April. There is some information on the estate farm and a map in the packet, page 1366 to 1367. Members happy enough with the forward work programme? Okay.
Yes, just in relation to your visit, obviously we're going to the Clandeboy Estate Farm, the sort of the wider estate. There's also Forest Schools and the Woodland Trust. And I don't know whether we'd had the opportunity even to have met with them on our tour.
I know. Chair, sorry, I know that the Education Committee recently visited the Forest School, so we can certainly ask, but the reason we chose there was we were asked to choose somewhere that had an anaerobic digester, and that was the focus, but certainly I can ask if
and I appreciate it's just that if we're there, you know, there's an opportunity
if we can see something else on the tour. Yeah, the Forest School and
there's the Woodland Trust are based there as well.
Woodland Trust, okay.
Can we maybe scope that out with them before?
Yeah, we can ask, yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. And item 12, members, any other business? Nope. Okay, next meeting will be held on Thursday, 19th September 2024 at the Clandeboy Estate at 10 a.m. Meeting is adjourned.
Committee Room 21. Sound.